of the Senate's co-presiding officers previously served as Senate President. DFL Senator Bobby Joe Champion was elected as the Senate President last session, while Republican Senator Jeremy Miller was the President of the Senate from 2019 through 2022. So, who better to navigate the new role and help preside over the Senate now than someone who has taken on the responsibility before? Here with me to talk about it is co-presiding officer Senator Jeremy Miller. Senator, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So this is a unique and historic moment. How does that feel?
Unique and historic is a great way to describe it. It feels great. I think we're at a turning point here in the state of Minnesota, especially with what happened the last couple of years. There was a lot of trust has been lost with the lack of cooperation and the lack of working together. So instead of dwelling on the past or complaining about the past, I think it's a new opportunity to look forward, and with this historic moment, this very interesting moment in our state's history, I think it's a great time to move forward by working together. And it's still relatively early in the legislative session. We're a couple weeks in at this point, but I'm optimistic with what's going on here in the Minnesota Senate that there will be cooperation and collaboration through the rest of the session, and I think we can work together and get good things done for the people of Minnesota.
Now, Senator, I know that, one day you're in charge, the next day DFL Senator Bobby Joe Champion is in charge. Does it feel like a relay race where you're just handing off the responsibilities?
Not really. Senator Champion and I have been doing this for a long time, and him and I have a good relationship, and I'm confident that we'll continue to work together. And the focus really shouldn't be on what's best for Republicans, what's best for Democrats. The focus should be on what's best for the state, what's best for the people of Minnesota, and that's what I'm going to continue to be focused on. And again, I'm optimistic that we can work together and we can have that collaboration here in the Senate to get good things done for the people of Minnesota.
Now, the way you just said it makes it sound like you think that this is a benefit to the Senate and the people of Minnesota, but do you think having two co-presiding officers will slow any progress?
I don't think so. Co-presiding officers is something that I think is good for the Senate, co-committee chairs, co-leaders. I just think it's an opportunity for us to lead in the Senate. The Senate has a long history of being the chamber that works together, the chamber that has good dialogue on the issues. Look, Democrats and Republicans aren't always going to agree on the issues, but we can be respectful and we can have good conversations that ultimately will lead to better solutions. And we lost a little bit of that the last couple sessions, but I think moving forward, especially with this new arrangement in the Senate, that we're going to get some of that back, and we're going to rebuild some of the trust that was lost last year, rebuild some of those bridges that were torn down. Many of my colleagues would say that they were disappointed with how the end of last session played out. So again, I think this is an opportunity to move forward in a positive manner and really focus on what is best for Minnesotans.
Yeah, so talk to me about how your caucus is currently receiving this moment, your role and the power sharing agreement.
Well, I think it's great for the Senate, it's great for the people of Minnesota, and it's a huge responsibility for our members to come in and be co-chairs, for me to be co-president of the Senate. It's not a position that I take lightly. Of course, we have to maintain the rules and the decorum of the Senate, but I feel like there's a bigger responsibility there, and that is to help lead the Senate in a positive manner, in a new direction forward. Again, there was a lot of disappointment with the way that last session ended, and a lot of trust was lost. So I feel like it's my responsibility to help rebuild that trust. And I've been here for a while. This is my 15th year in the Minnesota Senate. I've served in a number of different roles throughout that time, and I'm confident that Senator Champion and I can work together, and we have, again, as I mentioned, we have a good relationship. I have a good relationship with many members on both sides of the aisle, and not only good relationships, but good friendships. when you're here as long as I've been here, you have an opportunity to work together and get good things done. And the best way to get things done is to build those relationships and work across the aisle, work with both parties. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do that, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that over the course of this legislative session.
Now, Senator, we've talked about your thoughts on this current situation, your caucus. Have you heard from the constituents, the public? What kind of feedback are you receiving?
I've heard a lot of positive feedback from the constituents that I have the great honor of representing in southeastern Minnesota. In fact, I was just home last night. It was my son's last home swim meet, and it was parents' night, so I snuck back home to Winona last night, and I heard from a couple folks just last night how proud they are of the work that we're doing in the Senate. And of course, in the other chamber, it's a little more chaotic over there right now. So we're going to focus on doing our work in the Senate, and I think the people of Minnesota expect us to work together. Minnesota is not a deep blue state. It's certainly not a deep red state. It's a purple state, and Minnesotans expect us to work together and try to get things done, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And I think the way that the Senate has kicked off this year, Minnesotans appreciate that.
Now, this power sharing agreement, some people are saying it's bringing about balanced government. What does that mean to you?
Absolutely. People of Minnesota wanted us to restore balance in Minnesota. When you have one party in control, doesn't matter what party it is, what level, whether it's state or federal, oftentimes when there's one party in control, you go too far one way and you lose some of that balance, you lose some of those checks and balances. So I think Minnesotans are really, really excited about the restored balance in the state, and I can tell you what, I said it earlier, I'm optimistic that we're going to have a good session. Now, it's not going to come easy. There are a lot of challenges facing our state, and we have a large budget deficit that's looming in the not too distant future. So we have to take a look at spending. When you increase spending nearly 40%, it's unsustainable. And not only was spending increased by about 40%, but taxes and fees were also increased by an additional $10 billion. So that's unsustainable, and we're already starting to see that in the budget forecast. So we need to be more fiscally responsible as a state. We need to rein in spending, and I think we need to go line by line through the budget and take a look at what are needs of the state and then what are wants. And another area where we can find a significant amount of savings is going after waste, fraud, and abuse. And we've seen that there hasn't been a very good oversight from the administration when it comes to waste, fraud, and abuse. So I think you'll see the legislature get more involved, and hopefully we can not only rein in spending, but we can attack some of that waste, fraud, and abuse, so we can, at the end of the day, hopefully put more money back in the pockets of hardworking Minnesotans with some tax relief.
Senator, thank you for that. Going back to your role as a co-presiding officer, what do you want the legacy of that to be?
So what I'd like to see the legacy be is cooperation, collaboration, and working together. What can we do to focus on what's in the best interest of the people of Minnesota? That's what it's all about for me. I ran for this position because I wanted to help make a difference, and I believe that Senator Champion and I have both been called upon by our colleagues and entrusted by our colleagues to work together and do what's best for not only the Senate and to carry on the traditions of the chamber, but to really try to bring Democrats and Republicans together in the best interests of the people of Minnesota.
Senator, you mentioned that last session, a lot of people from your caucus felt unheard. This power sharing agreement has changed that for the beginning of this session, but it will end. Is there anything you can do now to ensure that all voices are heard throughout the session?
I think we're off to a good start, and I think continuing to work together and restore some of that balance is incredibly important. The way that the last session ended, it was devastating, I think, to the institution and to the Senate, not to mention the state of Minnesota, and a lot of trust was lost. And it's important that we try to rebuild that trust, and I'm committed to doing that instead of dwelling or complaining about the past. That won't do anybody any good. It certainly won't do the people of Minnesota any good. So I'm focused on let's listen to each other, let's work together with each other, and let's move forward in a positive manner. And I think that's what the people of Minnesota expect, and I know it's what they deserve from their elected officials.
All right, Senator, any final thoughts on this topic?
Nothing further.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and welcome to your new role here in the Minnesota Senate.